The moment I opened the shed door and saw what Annabelle had done, I knew the thing inside wasn't just alive, it was hungry. It all started on a quiet evening in the village. I never considered myself much of a fixer. Sure, I dabbled in some woodworking now and then, which explains the shed in our yard, but I was more of a builder than a fixer, and I'd never tackled anything as complex or delicate as the strange contraption my girlfriend insisted on. At some point, in a moment of sheer determination, or maybe foolishness, I decided to take the entire device apart and reassemble it from scratch. But of course, when I pulled everything out, nothing would fit back together the way it should. I've come to the realization that fixing this thing is beyond my skill level. If only she'd left me some instructions or explained how it ended up in such a broken state. But no, according to her, fixing is your job, love. So now, for the past few months, I've been stuck in this shed, facing the wreckage of a project that seems to only get worse with time. But it didn't always seem like this. Fate, if you believe in it, had a strange hand in all of this. The beginning of it all traced back to a doctor's appointment. A simple checkup on a fateful day in June 2023. I sat in a small, dimly lit room in the village clinic, the smell of antiseptic in the air. My gaze lingered on the doctor's nameplate on the desk. Dr. Alice Kent, OBGYN. She was the one my girlfriend trusted, the one she believed could solve the problem. The door opened suddenly, and I was snapped out of my thoughts. "Please come in." I sat next to my girlfriend, Annabelle, and noticed her face, pale, eyes swollen from tears. She looked at me with that familiar, helpless expression. Dr. Kent cleared her throat and spoke softly. "As I've mentioned to Annabelle, medically speaking, there's not much we can do. Her body just doesn't support pregnancy." Incompatible. It's the word we'd heard so many times before. Over the years, countless appointments, dozens of doctors, and the same explanation. Incompatible. There were never details, no answers, nothing. But Annabelle always insisted on privacy. Annabelle's voice quivered as she spoke up. "So, nothing at all? No treatment? No hope?" The doctor sighed. "I think it's best to take a break. Maybe try a new hobby, a pet, something to take your mind off it." At first, I thought she was just desperate, grasping at straws, but when she suggested getting some chickens, I wasn't sure what to think. Then came the garden, the small cottage for the chickens, and inevitably, the strange contraption. "We need it to care for the chickens," Annabelle insisted, pointing at the bizarre device in the corner of the shed. It looked like something you might find in a science fiction movie, and I knew instantly that it was going to be my job to figure out how to make it work. "It's good energy," Annabelle would say. She was convinced that caring for the chickens would somehow bring us closer to the miracle she longed for. I thought it was ridiculous, but I didn't argue. I just watched as she spent more and more time with the chickens and the device, every day in that shed, just her and her new life. It became her world. Then, everything changed. In October 2023, Annabelle discovered she was pregnant. But what came next was even stranger. "How? This doesn't make sense," I confronted Annabelle one evening. "You've hardly left the house, and when you do, you're with me the whole time. How?" Annabelle shrugged nonchalantly, her eyes sparkling. "It's like magic, babe. You see the chickens and the device? It worked, didn't it?" I didn't know whether to be angry or confused. That doesn't make any sense. But she seemed convinced. She had started believing that all the energy in the house, the chickens, the device, everything, had somehow worked. A miracle. She didn't seem bothered by the fact that I had no part in it. Instead, she began spending all her time with the device, caring for it, nurturing it like it was the key to her happiness. But something wasn't right. Weeks later, when I discovered the strange truth about the device, I couldn't believe my eyes. It had become something more than just a machine. I wasn't sure what it was, but when I started looking closer, I realized it was no ordinary object. Something was alive in there. Annabelle was becoming more distant, more obsessed. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, like she was under some kind of trance. She was feeding the machine things, strange, organic materials. I tried to confront her, but she only brushed me off, claiming that everything was fine, that I was imagining things. Then, I found the real horror. One night, I followed Annabelle out to the shed. My heart raced as I approached the door, the feeling that something was terribly wrong taking over my senses. The shed was quiet, except for the strange humming sound coming from the device. I stepped inside cautiously, my eyes scanning the room. What I saw made my blood run cold. The device had changed. It was pulsating, alive, with something inside. There was blood, too, fresh and sticky, staining the floor around the contraption. It wasn't just a machine anymore. It was something else, something that was slowly consuming everything around it. And in the corner of the shed, there was something else. A body, horribly mangled, but somehow still alive. It was Annabelle's former best friend, the one who'd helped her with the chickens. She was gone, but something of her remained inside the device, her body twisted beyond recognition. I turned to Annabelle, who was standing there, smiling softly. "You see, love? It worked. We're going to have a family now." I didn't know what was worse, the fact that she was still so calm, or that she believed this was all normal. Something had taken over her, and I couldn't recognize her anymore. As I stood there watching the grotesque creation before me, I realized there was no turning back. The device had claimed her, claimed us all. It was too late to stop it. And just like that, the village, the shed, everything faded into the background as I realized this was no longer about us. This was about something much darker. The moment Maggie saw the boy's face in the attic mirror, she remembered what she spent a lifetime trying to forget. The story is set in the Woodward House, a sprawling mansion that sits on the edge of a small, forgotten town, far away from civilization. The house is over 100 years old, built by Maggie's great-grandfather. It has an oppressive atmosphere, the air thick with dust, and the windows are often covered in thick, heavy drapes that block out the sunlight. The walls are adorned with faded wallpaper, peeling at the edges, and the floorboards creak with every step. The house is surrounded by dense forest, an isolated location that gives it a sense of being trapped in time. Maggie and Ryan arrive at the Woodward House, the property Maggie inherited from her late grandmother. Maggie had been estranged from her family for years, so the inheritance comes as a surprise. As she stands at the threshold of the old mansion, she feels a strange pull, as though the house is drawing her in. The air feels heavy, almost oppressive. Ryan is excited about the fresh start and hopes the change of scenery will help Maggie. However, Maggie feels a deep unease. The house seems too familiar, too suffocating, as if it holds memories she has long forgotten. The first night she dreams of a child. Oliver, a pale-faced boy with hollow eyes, stares at her from the shadows. As days pass, Maggie begins to experience strange occurrences. At night, she hears soft whispers, her name being called in a distant, almost unrecognizable voice. It feels like the house is alive, breathing around her, pressing her into the corners of her own mind. Ryan dismisses it, chalking it up to the stress of moving, but Maggie can't shake the feeling that something is watching her. In the attic, Maggie finds a trunk covered in dust. Inside, she discovers a series of old journals and letters belonging to her grandmother. The journals are filled with strange, fragmented thoughts about rituals, protection, and a mysterious boy named Oliver. Maggie's grandmother had written about performing rites in the house, trying to keep something at bay. One entry catches Maggie's eye. "I cannot keep the boy at bay much longer. He grows stronger with every passing day. He is her child, and she must be kept from him." Maggie is disturbed. She never knew who Eleanor, her mother, was. All she remembers is that her mother disappeared when Maggie was just 8 years old. The journals reveal that Eleanor had a deep, unhealthy attachment to a boy, Oliver, who was described as a shadow of the past, an echo of guilt. The boy's presence seemed to always be tied to a trauma Maggie can't remember. Maggie's paranoia deepens. She begins seeing Oliver everywhere, in reflections, in her dreams, and even in moments when she's sure no one else is around. His pale face stares at her from behind windows, in mirrors, and in the corner of her vision. He never speaks, but his unblinking eyes seem to accuse her as though he knows her deepest, darkest secret. Ryan, concerned about Maggie's increasing anxiety, suggests they leave the house. He believes it's just the stress, but Maggie can't bear the thought of abandoning the house. There's something about it that calls to her, something she feels connected to. She becomes obsessed with the idea of uncovering the truth about her family's past. One night, Maggie has a vivid dream. She's back in the old house, but everything is different. The house is alive, with walls that pulse like a heartbeat. She walks through the halls, drawn by a whisper calling her name. As she approaches the attic, the door creaks open on its own. Inside, she sees Oliver, standing at the center of the room, his eyes wide and emotionless. She approaches him, but as she gets closer, he vanishes into thin air. Suddenly, she's not alone. Eleanor is standing behind her, whispering into her ear, "He is the price you've paid. The past will never let you go." Maggie awakens in a cold sweat, gasping for air. The dream felt too real, too significant. She realizes that Oliver isn't just a ghost, but a manifestation of her own guilt. Guilt over a secret she's kept buried for years. It all comes rushing back to her. Oliver was her brother, the sibling she accidentally killed when they were children. Her mother, Eleanor, had hidden the truth from her, and the house had always known. It was never a place for ghosts. It was a place to contain her unresolved emotions. Maggie confronts Ryan with her discovery. He listens, but his disbelief and growing frustration are palpable. As Maggie tries to explain the connections between her family, the house, and the child she accidentally killed, Ryan begins to pull away, emotionally distancing himself from her. He feels trapped, unable to comprehend the enormity of her guilt and the intensity of her trauma. Maggie decides to face her guilt head on. She goes into the woods surrounding the house, where she remembers playing as a child with her brother. There, she sees Oliver once more. This time, he speaks to her, not with words, but with a single, piercing gaze. Maggie knows what she must do. In a final confrontation with her past, Maggie enters the house one last time. She walks through the halls, each step heavy with the weight of the memories she's long suppressed. She returns to the attic, where her grandmother's journals lie scattered. She reads the final entry. The child must be freed. Only then can the house rest. Maggie steps into the center of the attic, feeling the house tremble around her. Oliver appears again, but this time, he doesn't vanish. He stands before her, no longer a child, but a part of her. Maggie reaches out, not in fear, but in acceptance. The house falls silent. The air clears. As dawn breaks, Maggie exits the house. It is no longer the suffocating, oppressive place it once was. The weight of her guilt has been lifted. but the question remains, will she ever truly be free of the echoes of the past?